right?
Yes, but I have like from Google, I have sort of a short link to share to any meeting I'm in. So, but let me see if I join Hangouts, how would that work? Where is that button? Give me a second.
I think it's on the left or the right. They have some.
Oh, present now. Yeah, I find it.
Did you find it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oopsies.
Thank you.
You should file it back for usability if you took.
Yeah. So if it's not obvious, it's not good for anybody. Okay, so I think now I'm gonna start. I'm already recording. Over.
Okay.
Good. Okay, so hello everybody, and welcome to the Istio networking community meeting. We originally had 2 items for today in the agenda, but we're actually going to postpone the namespacing discussion because we don't have like a few people who are very interested in the subject, respectively, like Louis and Sriram. They are away, and they have a lot to say on that aspect. So I'd like to postpone that for next week, in fact. And we have the second item, which in itself it's super important, and this is basically Robert will present us how he can basically decouple the envoy sidecar from Istio. Or no, I shouldn't say that. Maybe I will let you say exactly what it does. So you call the loosely coupled Istio envoy sidecar the feature. So yeah, it's over to you, Robert.
All right, thank you, Andrea. Let me share first. Oh, what happened? Are you able to see?
This is deep.
This is a fractal.
No, it's deep. It's
Robert went really deep on his analysis.
Yes.
So I don't know what happened. Once I clicked that button, you know, you just
stop sharing your video. Like 11 or 10 minutes.
Turn off camera.
Yeah.
Okay. So I actually saw that in addition to your item, we got 2 more like last minute topics. So Istio CNI design doc and a question about configurable envoy log format. So hopefully we will be able to go through them as well. But after Robert's presentation.
Thank you to whoever added the last
one more time. No, it's still not working.
It's not working. Okay.
So,
do you want to maybe paste in the document and I can present for you? Do you?
Okay. Let me just give it one more try.
Or maybe exit and re-enter Hangouts. Sometimes that works too. Which one? Oh, this one works. You guys can see this, right? So maybe let me just open, not this one though. This one. Can you guys see this?
All right.
Let's give it this.
Are you guys able to see?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Now it's working fine.
Okay, so let me open up another browser then. Oh.
Yeah, we'll have to give feedback to the Meet for what happened.
No, Andrea, I've seen that on other video conferencing tools as well. So.
Oh, okay.
So you guys, are you guys able to see this window now?
Yes.
It's working perfectly.
Thank you very much. This is Robert Lee from Cisco. So a couple of weeks ago, the team presented the Istio CNI plugin, which can help install the IP tables into the namespace, and in the same time, eliminated the need to have init containers. So during that discussion, I also, Louis also post a document about sidecar-less Istio, in which he described the issues associated with the current sidecar injection mechanism. So I was kind of thinking about that, and see if there's any ways to separate the two. I mean, although you cannot completely separate them, but somehow you can make them loosely coupled. So currently, we can either automatically inject the sidecar or manually inject the sidecar. But in any case, the sidecar deployment or containers are part of the application pod manifest. So in terms of Kubernetes pod lifecycle management, the two basically married together and tightly coupled together. So basically, I'm thinking about to use the same idea as Kubernetes uses to have multiple containers share the namespace. You can, separately install the, run the sidecar container on top of the applications pod. So, and with this Istio CNI, is kind of the ordering of starting up all the objects is kind of quite fit to achieve this. So that's basically I'm just giving you guys some background about this work. So this is a very preliminary. It's basically just to illustrate the concept and how it works in principle. By no means is a working system, but it does works to show the concept. So basically, the install basically is exactly the same with the Istio CNI plugin. But you just need to do a few special steps, specific steps to share the secret. If you have multiple nodes, you want to copy the secrets into the node, and so that this secret can be mounted into the container. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead to show the demo. So this is my cluster. I have 3 nodes cluster, and this is the master node, and I have 2 mini nodes on the left. So I'm not going to go through the install process anymore. I think Tim has already shown that a couple of weeks ago. But I'm going to show what I, as part of the install, was installed in the system. So you can see there's this script to add the sidecar. I also have a cleanup script in the Istio CNI netd. Basically, it has this. I'm using Flannel, so Team using Calico. So that there's no much difference over there.
So here, Robert, I have a question. So here you keep saying sidecar, but in fact you're not adding necessarily a sidecar in the pod, right? You're adding the envoy as in the node. Am I correct?
No, it's still per pod.
Oh, it's still per pod. Okay.
It's attached to the pod namespace, basically, the networking namespace only.
Yeah. So you can
I see.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you see this config is basically the same. You have Flannel as first plugin, and you have Istio CNI as the second. Mm-hmm. So what I'm going to do now is to deploy the book info, and you can see the book info. I didn't make any change in the book info.yama. It's quite simple. As you create a service like details, and then you have a simple deployment manifest. But there's no other containers, like injected by the kube inject or auto injection. So I'm going to go ahead to deploy this. Hopefully it works. Because,
It replaces the cycle injector.
Yeah. I see.
So get pause dash white. So now it's being created. Some of them are created on this meaning 2, and one is created on meaning 1. So I want to show here one instance. I should be sudo docker ps grep like product page. You can see the time, right? So the 22 seconds. So on the right side first. So you can see there's only one container showing there. But you know, on the left side, this is, let me make this larger.
Yep.
So these are the containers as a result of deploying booking for the product page, and you can see that this one is the sidecar. This is the app container, and you can see the sidecar is a little bit older than the app container.
Small feedback.
Sorry,
a bit of feedback here. It would be nice to reverse, to put Istio pod. I mean, the reverse order to be consistent with the namings that Kubernetes is using for the containers, and maybe put the UUIDs there, so it's clear how they are associated.
Oh yeah. So this is
I'm sure
for now. Yeah. So the naming, yeah, we definitely can do that. But you can see that it's a little bit older. That means this one gets started first. I think is the pause container gets started, followed by the sidecar, and followed by the add container.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I say this is super cool, super interesting.
That's exactly what we need.
Let me so go ahead. You know, this is going to map the namespace, and I'm going to show the the IP tables are populated. Hopefully, they're all populated. So these are so the product page. This is a product page namespace. So I'm using this script to map into the namespace. All the apps. So for product page, the namespace I mapped into the product page namespace, and you can see the app tables is populated by the CNI plugin.
Super.
And in the same time,
So I'm trying to figure out here, like, what network namespaces we're sharing and what other, like, Linux namespaces we're sharing.
So basically, each app call, like in here, you have the application production page, product page, details, ratings, reviews. Each one actually, each pod has a namespace, network namespace. So that namespace is started up created by Kubernetes, and it's first it's start the pause container, and once that gets started, so I'm going to go back to here. Let me finish this, and I'll go back over there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
To that. Just to show one more thing. So if you do curl, this is product page IP address, and it's 9080 product page.
-V.
Yeah, see the page gets shown here, and if you see the logs, product logs, this for the sidecar. And you can see that those requests, are routed by envoy, basically are proxied by envoy to, to send requests to details reviews. So that means the sidecar is being invoked as at this curl request.
I think what Andrew was asking is, besides the network namespace, do you also mount the file system namespace? How do you get the certificates, for example, for the secret?
So that's right now. So that's why I'm saying this is super preliminary.
Okay.
Let me show the script. It's very simple script for now. Add sidecar.
And sorry, the reason I'm asking is because there is also work on the security working group to move to the node agent, which is also a daemon set. And that will remove the need to attach to the file system namespace and to read secrets. So basically, it will be just namespace need to be attached and nothing else. Which is
okay.
So if I understand correctly, so here you're still sharing the network namespace of the pod, but you're not sharing all the other like namespaces, Linux namespaces.
I think they will need
right?
for the secret. I mean, for secret, to read the secret, they will need because I don't know how. Or
I see,
you
but
could mount the secret yourself.
Yeah.
That's not a problem. Actually, yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
I take it back.
Right now, what I did is you know, if you look at this, it just invoke the Docker command to run this sidecar container.
Yeah.
And this is very important. So what is passing into this script is the network container ID by the Istio CNI, and basically this is the POS containers network container ID. Sorry, this is the POS container ID, and it's passing the pod name and also the namespace.
Yeah.
This is the network namespace. Sorry, no, this is the pod namespace, the Kubernetes namespace. Sorry, also the pod IP. But this container ID is very important. You can see this container ID is used here. So you pass this argument to Docker. The Docker is going to start the container and place it into this network namespace.
I see that you are starting envoy directly, so presumably you didn't deal with secret rotation yet. So
yeah. So now I'm just
no, that's fine. That's reasonable for product, but eventually we want to either integrate with SDS or we use a pilot agent. There are also readiness and some other details probably that. Question: can we get it in 1.1? How far you are?
Well, what's the time frame of 1.1?
I don't know. Lynn, do you know what's?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've heard like end of October and November. So.
Yeah, if it's end of October, no.
So I don't think it's
an alpha option.
It must be like probably more like November, mid-November.
No, but at least that's an alpha option and not necessarily stable or production ready, but at least that's an option for some.
Yeah, so you have to give us an option. If we release this, so you have to give people the option they can continue using the manual injection and also the webhooks.
And that's relatively easy. I mean, it's basically just need to add some code if the pod named. I mean, if the pod description has Istio proxy inside, don't do anything, or if it has the annotation, basically. So it's really not.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to, I think I haven't, I think initially we need to come up with a design document. This basically is to manage the life cycle of the sidecar, right? Also, if for upgrade or whatever. So if I go back to my so this GitHub page, and this is basically how it works right now. This picture shows.
We're not seeing that.
So
are you able to see?
We're still seeing your screen, your demo screen. The dev user, your terminal.
Maybe you didn't know that.
Look, Robert, the rationale, I missed the rationale for why this is needed. It looks really cool. I'm just curious, is this to increase scale? Is that, I'm just kind of guessing.
No. Well, if you want to read this, are you able to see my screen now?
Just the screen with the terminal.
Still the terminal. So like.
Stop sharing and share again.
Yeah, okay.
Let me answer the answer. So Steve, what we're trying to do is to basically be able to upgrade Envoy in place without restarting the pod. So for this reason, we're trying to like decouple from this like very tight
That's one use case, yes.
coupling between Envoy and the application. So one use case is to do what like exactly what Robert is showing us. But in my opinion, I think we have to take this one step further towards moving like Envoy into some sort of daemon set in the nodes, like a pool of envoys.
That's a much more contentious thing, right? So the general idea of moving Envoy out of the pod boundary, I think, is fine. The idea of node level envoys, I think, is
so I think we'll have some degrees of various degrees, but I think that's like a great step forward already, right? Because like in the same sense, we can actually at the node level we can create a network namespace for Envoy and like connect it to, I was thinking via vpair or something, right? Instead of like still using the same network namespace as the pod and IP tables, I really want to get rid completely of the IP tables redirection, use some other mechanism. But I mean, it's so great to see like this, where all the things we can do with CNI, like we're suddenly getting access to lower level, lower level commands basically, and things to do with the namespaces.
Yeah, do you have any preliminary performance number on using CNI to do init container and also to inject the Envoy sidecar versus what we are doing today?
I mean, but that shouldn't be like performance shouldn't be an issue there because that's just starting a container,
No,
right?
stability is an issue because this model is more stable. I mean, because we can make sure that the sidecar is configured and ready when the workload is ready. So it's solving some extremely hard to solve problems that
the startup order is big. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so and many other use cases are addressed by this.
Also, like what I always wanted to see was this decoupling of Envoy, because right now, for instance, if Envoy crashes, it crashes for a number of times.
Well,
and then it actually, we have this pilot agent that restarts it for a number of times, but up to a limit. And I've seen cases where like Envoy crashed completely and remained in a crash state. And Kubelet did not restart the pod because the main entry point, which is the pilot agent, was still alive and well.
Right, but those problems are only going to get worse if we move to managing all the envoys ourselves, by the way. Because we really opt out of Kubernetes management here.
Yes.
Right, so that
downside.
Correct. So I think that's one of the points we will need to solve if we like decouple envoys. We will need to do the life cycle management of envoys ourselves, right? What happens if it crashes? Who restarts it?
No, we still have the pilot agent.
I mean,
the pilot agent is doing other things as well. It's not really only for.
Right, but we need to be right. But we still rely on Kubernetes in some sense, even with the pilot agent, right? And we don't even have that as a backstop.
Oh, no. I assume they will put back a pilot agent into the picture. I mean, I think that's what I asked before. I mean, he said that.
Right.
So.
I think somebody with a phone number 1669 is trying to say something for a while.
Yeah, it's me, it's John from Palo Alto. Hopefully next meeting we can show you the demo with the proxy running a separate namespace with these pairs.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Cool.
That would be super cool. Thanks.
We have it working just now, just haven't got the proxy inserted into the namespace, but I think some of the stuff Robert's done here, we can leverage some of that too. So that would give us isolation and get rid of IP tables completely.
Awesome.
Catching up, and Robert, it looks fantastic. I get it now. Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
The other big topic we need to cover in the design too is resource attribution. We need to actually be able to track why we're running this envoy and who to bill for it.
And more important, resource, not only attribution but also scheduling, because scheduling is very important. You specify 109 CPU, but the Docker is going to take over some of it. So we need to figure out how to.
Casting, Zach, I did look into that. It appears that Kubernetes supports something called placeholder pod or static pods.
Oh.
Basically, you can start that. You can place. I can show you actually.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if Are you able to see my extern?
Yeah.
No, we're still seeing the document now.
Oh,
which
okay.
would be great actually to go back further and explain it for more, like just in case.
Okay. Go back to the document.
Yeah, because you showed this, but you didn't get the chance to talk over it because we were like debating.
Interrupting you all the time.
You know, we're a very chatty community.
Yeah, so this picture, I think, gave a clear sequence of events or things that happen as part of bringing up the pod. So you can see the first step is run pods container, the kubelet run pods container. And then at some point later, it invokes the CNI plugin chain. And as part, so when the CNI plugin executes, the main plugin, in my case, is Flannel, is going to set up networking, the both interface and IP, whatever are required. And the last plugin is Istio CNI, and it's going to populate the IP tables. And then, in my case, whatever is working right now is calling that script to start up the Istio proxy container.
But in your demo, your proxy actually runs within the app pod. Is that true?
It's not, not in the pod.
No, so like, we can
Docker and Kubernetes have different views over the world. I mean, Docker.
Yeah. So there's no pod at all.
Well, there is a pod, but but from Kubernetes point of view, there is no Istio proxy container.
Exactly.
From Docker point of view, it is. So it's kind of.
Okay, so the network namespace, if that's the Docker point of view, so they are.
Docker point of view, yes. The side effect of this is that you'll not be able to do kubectl exec Istio proxy.
Right.
Or
so
but you can do Docker exec.
We'll have other ways to do it. Yeah, you could.
Like with Docker, I think you can do that.
Yes.
Right, because kubectl exec relies on Docker.
But don't you have to be on the node to do it with Docker?
Yeah.
That's like not an acceptable.
Docker exec is not so easy to do. I mean,
I see.
I was just debugging it yesterday with the debugger, what is called
the Squash?
The Squash debugger, yes. And what they are doing is they actually create a pod for their, I mean, Istio proxy is just like their Delve container. So they create a pod as well. I don't know how they are doing it in the daemon set, because Istio CNI is a daemon set and it's running stuff and then you can kubectl exec into that particular pod. So technically, when you create this Docker container, I think you can create a fake or some other form of pod that is distinct from the main pod, but it's also visible from Kubernetes.
Yeah, that makes sense, and that seems like that would be the way we'd want to do it.
Or we can just open a port and put allow other forms of debugging. It's not necessarily that.
I think
that's nice.
Yeah, I mean, if that's required, if you want to exec into the sidecar from any node, I think it definitely can provide some utilities to do that.
It's debatable if it's a requirement or it's a nice thing to have or it's a bad thing to have, because in a way
it's pretty nice.
Well,
right?
It's consistency, right? So like I use kube control logs to get logs in Kubernetes. That should still work even with this different, right? Ideally.
You don't get logs from the Flannel, for example, or from it's
Well, when I get logs from their daemon set and stuff like that, right? Like it's been right. It depends on where they're logging things, but I suppose, sure.
So there are definitely some advantages in being tightly coupled to Kubernetes. Like you get all this for free, right? Like kubelet lifecycle management, kubectl exec into the container. But we need to strike the balance here, right? We want to have some degree of flexibility with the upgrades and everything, and try to use as much as we have already.
Yeah, well, this also makes non-kube easier, right? Because it means it's easier to manage Envoy in environments without kubelet.
Yeah, one thing is nice if you follow especially the Squash model is that we can separate the roles. So basically it's a namespace where some people have access and they can access the proxy and kubeexec and trusted people maybe. but normal application developers will not be able to do it and interfere with read secrets and do all kind of dangerous stuff.
But that's why I think it's very important to actually have a separate network namespace for Envoy, right? So
network namespace is perfectly fine. It's not interfering with. You cannot read secrets. I mean, the problem is accessing to the file namespace and memory namespace.
Right, but you want to move everything into the other. Like you want to create a namespace for Envoy. Put the secrets there, put everything there.
That's what they are doing.
And connect them. But no, this is still the application's network namespace.
No, but the secrets are not in the network namespace. Network namespace means you can do TCP connection on localhost.
Oh, okay, I see.
That's
so
that's the only
he doesn't have this working yet, right? Like he hasn't worked on the secrets.
I think the secrets can be solved easily without having to share file system namespace.
If you just if you just swap over to the pilot agent pod and then let it do its normal file mounts. You'll have to change some file paths, but like that should just still work.
No, that was
network namespace, but not the other namespaces.
The file namespace, I think it's called.
So for the secrets, because you'll have to deal with secrets soon. The two ways to do it is one is a new node agent, because the secrets will have the node agent, so you just connect directly to node agent. You don't have to deal with mounts. The other one is to watch secrets, basically to have the agent or whatever you are doing, the CNI plugin, watch the Kubernetes secrets, and then you have access to the secrets and you can copy them to the file without any secret mount.
My point is that pilot agent already does that, so you should just be able to use the image with pilot agent inside and just change some of the file paths.
But pilot agent is relying on secret mounts added by the injector, but it's
right,
tough.
Okay.
I think John is also trying to say something. Go ahead, John.
Thanks. You guys are great. But so the way we did it was we actually created a new namespace, a network namespace in the app pod. So all the other namespaces for the proxy are available, like file system namespaces to get secrets, and it keeps it more isolated. And hopefully, depending on what we do in the next couple of days, we can actually make it the proxy still managed by kubelet. That will give us access to some resources and things. That's where we're struggling just now, just to get that to work. I like what Robert's done as well, because making the proxy a part of the node is another way of looking at it, i.e. that all the app pods can talk to a single proxy. So I think both ways have some advantages and disadvantages. Making them global to the node makes scalability a little bit tricky, because as app pods come and go, would the proxy running in the node namespace get overloaded, and how would you scale it? Or do you do an Istio proxy node for every app pod, and then you clean up afterwards?
Yeah, so as far as I'm aware, this model is still one envoy per pod. So it's still a sidecar. It's just not executing inside of the pod. It's still not a multi-tenant envoy.
Right, but we have the other options as well. So what I think we need is somebody to take ownership of like writing the various models, like basically having the way it's this picture right now, but have it with like the other combinations also, like when the network namespace is and file namespaces are also different, like with the pros and cons, because it's we're talking a lot, but when we actually see it written down, we may be able to make a better decision on what to go forward with.
Well, Tim's already started a document, so can we just add to that? Would that be a good place?
Of course, yeah. I haven't Tim is the one you just added to the meeting. Oh, okay, great. So we can use time to go over this. So yeah, definitely. Then maybe Robert and you, John, can go ahead and also add the different add to that document, I think.
Yeah, let's do that. Try and target the next meeting to go through this, and we can try and do a demo of what we've done and go through the pros and cons of all approaches, because I think they all have pros and cons, and we may decide that we want to offer a couple ways of doing it.
Right. So there are obviously the security aspects, the being to do in-place upgrade. There is also the resource attribution, how we do it in the various scenarios. What else we have? We need to look at some criteria to qualify, basically.
So Andrea, you seem to have the criteria in your head. Can you maybe add the criteria to the document and then let us add the technical details to say how to solve your problem?
One argument against putting it in the current document is that the implementation points for these are probably going to be a little different. We're probably not going to get everything implemented all at the same time. So it might be better to actually have them as, a chain of documents that will more closely follow the implementation phases we're going to get to.
Or you can have it at the end, say, as future plans or alternative considered or possible alternatives. It's fine either way. I don't really...
I don't really have a strong opinion, but I think we're working hard to get the initial stuff done very quickly. I think it's going to take a little while longer to actually
whatever works for you, John. I don't want to prescribe anything here.
We can figure it out offline from contributors and just.
To be clear, the fact that an alternative exists doesn't mean we have to implement it or we have to implement it now, or that. I mean, I think we are all in agreement, or my feeling is that we have strong consensus to go ahead with CNI and with some form and to solve as many problems as we can. But I think even as it is today, it's a viable solution that we could get into a release as alpha quality, even if it doesn't solve all the possible problems. And even without resource allocation, we can work around.
Right, but it's good. I think it's very good to understand the benefits of it.
It would be good to have a higher level doc, right?
Yeah, I think that we have a higher level doc, but that shouldn't get into the way of actually implementing something practical that works. And
we also have to keep in mind that just like one more thought, like people have already got used to this idea of the sidecar that lives, by the application and all that, and whatever other models we choose, we have to make sure we don't confuse the audience too much, because
it's still sidecar,
it's still sidecar, but it can be something else than sidecar. So that's why I think it's good if all of us first have an understanding of the benefits, so we don't really go with somebody choosing one approach, another, team implementing a different approach, and then when we try to discuss,
then you can compare based on reality and to perform. And instead of competing on paper, it's better to compare prototypes and see which one works better. And
I think they all work.
I think documentation. Steve also said is well needed on different approaches and pro and con in different scenarios. The problem I have with the current diagram today, I think last week or maybe the week before last week, everybody agreed CNI with init container, and I think everybody gets that. But now we're talking about moving the proxy out of the app pod, so there's a resource and lifecycle management. I don't think we have answer for lifecycle management yet, so I'm hesitant to move to that model before we even have an answer for that.
So I think that's kind of what I was also referring to, Lynn, is that, we're going to have to document the models. Maybe, we can easily do this in one spec as well. It's just, document, an initial implementation that's more constrained, and then possibilities, other possibilities to move it further along, and then we can decide which possibilities we implement.
So the current doc actually just documents the removing of the init container, what's required for that in the basic CNI framework, and then so I guess we could look for approval of that doc, and then move towards it introduces this concept, but it doesn't really dive into it. I think we could put it in that other doc, or it depends on how you want to manage that.
Right, let's leave these as separate things, right? So
I think
the init container out is the doc that exists today, and I think we all agree that that's good. I think the next doc that needs to be written is one about moving the sidecar out of the pod, the different strategies that can be used there, and weighing the ways to do it.
Right. Sorry, was that finished?
Oh, and I was gonna say, and there's no reason not to continue with the implementation, right? It's not like we need to stop and write the doc, which I think is what you were gonna say, Costin.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. But also, I was going to say that I'm not very good at understanding how documents work. I prefer to try something on multiple clusters, because the main concern with this problem is if we lose any cluster provider vendor that doesn't support this model, or where it will not work, or if we can start dropping the old model if this one works better. So for this, we need prototypes that are kind of easy in a release and can be tested across
Yeah,
in fact, what you gain with this, it's you probably gain more platforms. No, you gain more platforms because it's not so much tied to Kubernetes. Like you can use whatever Docker runs, you can use this model, right?
Yeah, well,
you can have your application in your own network namespace managed by Docker, and you can like, right? So I think it's a step forward towards, more flexibility in general.
Right, and that's why it would be good to have a doc that lines out, that outlines.
Right? So we do need a doc. We do need at least one doc, okay? And we don't need to stop any implementation because I think they're all like, doing like, steps where I think we're progressing basically.
Next topic.
So this is great. So let me see, Robert, would you like to add anything more?
Well, I just want to finish this. But I don't have. I want to say anything more about the diagram. I think it's pretty clear out there. And the next, the last section of this page, basically, it's talking about that to have a running a sidecar manager. I don't have a good name for it, but just responsible for the sidecar lifecycle management, and it will basically work with Istio CNI and other necessary components to start, stop, envoy sidecars. Potentially mount secrets and may not be required, as Costin pointed out, and upgrade the sidecars without impacting application traffic with envoy hot restart. So basically, you can start 2 containers, and one will gradually go away, and the other will take all the tasks over eventually. And it could configure traffic redirection to the sidecars and potentially monitor dynamic pods and redirect traffic. So you also talk about per node sidecar or shared sidecars. It's also possible to do that. So it's just a rough points, not much in detail yet. So, but it does require a complete design to implement this. If you guys still want to see, how how the placeholder part is done in Kubernetes, I can go back to the X term and show you guys. Otherwise, we can go ahead with other topics.
Okay, we only have like 15 minutes left, so I think it's probably okay to move to the next topic if everybody else agrees. So, okay.
Can I ask? I'll make a point quickly. I think we need to be cognizant on this, on how a user is actually going to debug this, because, for instance, the access logs are going to be in a completely different place. How is Prometheus? Because Prometheus currently scrapes envoys directly in master, and it will in 1.1. How is Prometheus going to know kind of what to scrape? And the other thing is things like the proxy config command specifically execs into the envoy containers. So we tend to still need a way to do that if we want to keep that command in there.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the criteria, that we're going to use to compare the different approaches, right, Lime? Like, for instance, I haven't mentioned this, but you brought a good one. So I mentioned like the others, like it was the resource attribution, the last one, but this is definitely the debuggability, right? Troubleshooting, all that. So we have to all like go into that document, wherever that is, and add those.
Yeah. Yep.
Can we assign someone like Andrea to start the main document for the what are the criteria, what things we should be analyzing?
Can somebody volunteer?
It's an open source project. You cannot assign anything, so it's.
So who wants to volunteer for that?
I think
you guys want? I can start something
Yeah,
up.
I was gonna say I could help out and
Perfect.
Okay, so Robert and Tim, please start something and we'll all contribute. Okay, if you make it like edit access, we'll add stuff there.
Okay.
And comment and all. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for volunteering. Okay, good. So let's then go to the next topic. So I think it's still about the CNI, right?
Yeah,
It's the CNI design team, right?
Right. I was just
okay.
I sent it out to the mail thread, and looks like some people have been commenting. So I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware that it's up and available. So we don't have to spend much time on this right now. We can just go ahead and I'll just introduce it again here. So we have the document really focuses on the design of adding the CNI to the system. So chart information, how it gets installed, what the parameters to the actual plugin are. Are
you sharing, Tim?
I can see. Yeah, I can see his stuff.
Okay.
You might have pinned his someone else's screen.
Yeah, sometimes you have to click on the person who's talking.
Got it.
Okay. So it's open for comments. There's some TBDs in here. We've have the implementation put into Istio ecosystem /CNI. Anybody can create issues, I think. And if you want to work on it, let me know, because I can add you as a collaborator. We have a few guys who did that already outside of Cisco. So the main goals of this are just the approach that solves the removing of the init container. The non-goals are for this doc right now. I have as not, moving the sidecar out of the user Kubernetes pod is not really a goal for this, and doing anything besides IP tables redirect is not really a goal right now for this. If we want to make something like that a goal, I think we could, like we were saying, move those into the other docs. So that's basically all I wanted to talk about, and have folks start paying attention to the repo as well. Go ahead.
One comment, sorry, on the goal of decoupling environment networking details from Istio. I'm positive, it's wonderful. I don't object to this goal, but I want to make sure we keep things consistent. So if we want to move all the IP table initialization to a separate repository, we should make sure that either we copy over the IP table script, because we had this problem in the past and it was a huge pain.
Right.
And, so
the problem here is the fact that this is in the ecosystem, or however it's called, community, instead of being in it Istio, right?
No, not Istio. I mean, it's one thing that being in a separate Git repository. The other thing is that if it's Istio or Istio community. I personally don't care too much about this. That's a TOC decision where to put stuff. But my concern is to make sure that wherever we have, it's a single IP table script, not 5.
Right, and also I think, in my opinion, all this, like the functionality in this area, should be part of Istio.
Or part of Istio, not Istio. Istio is a different. It's one Git repository. In what you're saying?
I think this is central.
I would say the steering committee has decided that Istio ecosystem is not under Istio brand, so it's not going to have Istio logo along Istio ecosystem. So that means it's not a repository blessed by the Istio organization. So if this is a core function, which is a core function in my view, to do init container, we should definitely move to Istio whenever it's the right time.
Lynn, Istio is a one repository. We have Istio proxy, Istio tools, Istio whatever. I mean, we have 5 or 6 repositories.
Oh yeah, so I see what you're saying, but I think we should definitely move to the Istio org.
Yeah, that's what I agree.
Yeah, Istio.org, and in my opinion, Istio. But sure, we can like discuss this, I guess, in the TOC or somewhere, right? Like all this, but it's core of the networking. So I don't see this as being outside, really.
And technically, it's involved is approval from TOC and forking the repository in the Istio work. Because the repo can exist. I mean, wherever it is, it's the same Git tree, same stuff. It doesn't have any.
So we could just move the org. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, move it under Istio.org.
Yeah, the project to the Istio.org.
Okay. Okay. We can Slack about that. I think one of you guys might have to do that because I don't think I have permission to do that.
Oh yeah, TOC needs to approve first. So.
Okay. So yeah,
so it's not going to be Istio/Istio. It's not going to be part of CNI. Okay,
Yeah,
I mean that's still okay as long as it's Istio, right? It's important.
Under Istio
branch.
And also, if you want this in the Istio repo as a directory, we can do that too. We can take care of that if that's something that's desired by the TOC.
Okay, so I mean it depends on how we do with the code reuse, right? The main is the code reuse.
We'll figure it out.
Right? Yeah.
But I'm happy to move stuff from Istio the IP tables to it's anyway it's in a bad place.
Yeah, I mainly wanted to examine the potential for having this be like very version independent from the Istio control plane.
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, Costin, just decide where you want it, or the TOC can decide where they want it, and we'll make that happen.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Yeah. We'll put maybe an item, but maybe not rushed, like not this week, maybe next week for the TOC.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, so regarding your doc, could you? I guess we only have 5 minutes. Could you talk about user experience on consuming this thing from admin to the user? I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, so good question. What I was thinking was, and I've implemented some of this. So I have a Helm chart, very basic, but you can have multiple values files, and really these files only need to be kind of specific to the hosted Kubernetes environment. Probably this one would be the most the main one would be the most customized, I guess, for anybody's bare metal system or however they install Kubernetes. But for the hosted environments, it'd be pretty stable. So the gist I'm thinking is that there would be a Helm chart, and then if we support this, when we support this under the linkage from the Istio control plane would be a requirements dependency, and we would have to have we would have a released version of the Helm chart in a Istio Helm repository that we reference from our main Istio requirements Helm chart. That's how I was envisioning this.
So it would be part of the Istio one single Helm chart.
It would be dependent. It would the main Istio chart would have in their requirements a dependency and on this, and it would have it would reference a released Helm repository version.
But can we do it with one single install? Like today, the main Helm requires pilot or mixer as requirement.
Yeah.
Are you thinking that, or it's two steps for the user?
No, I think it would be doable for one step with that requirements dependency there, on the main chart.
Yeah. I think that's
nice. That's how we do it right now is 2 steps, but yeah, we can maintain the user experience of the 1 step.
Just on that point, we should probably take that up in the environments meeting. I think we can do that, but we may have to restructure the chart directories.
Yeah, I was going to get with you, Steve, on this idea and explain what I was thinking and something out. Okay.
Okay. Well, maybe we should put that in the design doc too once we hash something out.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, Steve, I try to document what I'm thinking here in this section. So if you could read that now, and hopefully it makes sense.
Yeah, I haven't looked at this, so I'll look at it after.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying it should be ready to look at. Sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
I was trying to think how is user consume this? How does a user knows they are consume this with automatic sidecar? I assume they had to. I guess they could use this in conjunction with the automatic sidecar, as long as the automatic sidecar doesn't do the init container.
Yeah. So the version when there has to be compatibility, right? For if you're using automatic sidecar or Istio-CTL, you would have to use a with the automatic sidecar, you would have to use a Helm install with the CNI knob enabled so that it would not inject the init container into the config map.
Yeah, that makes
sense. And then with Istio-CTL, that's going to be harder because there's if you're not using the exact a version that's above where this is supported, then you would always have to have the auto sidecar config map be the thing that's used to create the template that Istio-CTL renders.
I think I prefer that the CNI plugin is looking at the pod definition, and if it has a proxy and init container, it's just not doing anything instead of kind of having a global setting, because and maybe have an option to force this CNI. I don't know, but
we can coexist like that.
Exactly.
But I think we definitely need the knob at the Helm chart level to not have the init container in the config map, because otherwise it would never work, right?
Yes.
So I propose we talk about this particular aspect in the networking, not in the environments meeting next week.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time. It's already 12, and actually, I don't know if we have time to go over the last item, which is configurable envoy log format. Greg, I'm not sure if you're still here. And
we can move it
or if you wanna, like, if it can wait, or you wanna, it's something quick, or I'm sorry, I did not manage time properly.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, I could either post it in the networking Slack, but basically I added some fields to the HTTP default log format that Envoy uses, and at the same time enabled TCP logging in some recent PRs. And after those went in, a question came up from somebody else if we should make those things configurable. Because the person in question was wondering if the logs could be in a JSON format. But
oh my.
I don't know. So I don't know if it's something that we want to discuss, trying to make that log format configurable, or yeah.
Please make it into Istio network mailing list, not the Slack channel, so it's easier to get offline because not everyone is on Slack. And I'll be happy to participate because we have another concern about the size of the configuration. Right now, the stuff with the logs, that the format is kind of increasing the size that we push, and we push quite a lot of configurations.
Yeah,
but is this about the envoy log, or
yeah, the envoy log? Is this
is something
for how to the structure of the envoy log?
Right, but this like the decision belongs to the envoy community.
No, we can override it. We can specify whatever we want.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So basically, I took the default HTTP envoy access log format and I just added 4 additional fields to it.
Yeah, I see.
And then I enabled basically all the fields that we could for TCP logging, since we currently didn't have anything for that. And then somebody raised the question if we'd consider exposing that as something that a user can configure if, say, they didn't want all the fields, or if they wanted something in a JSON format.
So the background for the question, because it was me actually that asked it, because we're looking at deployment at the moment, is we don't want to have to deploy Mixer in order to get access logs, and we need them in JSON format to actually have them parsed. So the only way we can currently do that in JSON format is to actually run Mixer purely just because we can't customize that bit.
Oh, I see.
But the other aspect is that if you have mixer, you don't want to have logs twice. So if people are running mixer, definitely they want to turn off completely the log from envoy side, and if they are turning on off mixers, then probably yes, you're right.
Yeah. So to me, it looks like we do need some configuration here, and it's true that we're having a lot of knobs already, but we do need the flexibility.
No, we do have this configuration already. So the configuration to turn off logging has been Istio 1.0. I think the custom format is also an existing feature. It's just
is it?
Definitely.
It's hard coded in pilot code.
Okay, so it's not configurable.
The office certainly there. I'm using it every day, so that's
so it's useful then.
No. For performance testing, you definitely want to turn off logging and envoy. And if you have mixer, I mean, that's
right. But the question is whether he should expose a knob. To basically allow the TCP fields that he added, and my answer is yes. Like
maybe
right
for TCP we should log because for consistency, but for actually custom format, I think we need
for JSON
for JSON, especially for JSON, but especially since the breaking change. I mean, if you have people who are parsing logs in the current format, you definitely don't want them to be surprised.
Is that something that should be discussed on the technical oversight committee meeting tomorrow?
Probably not, but up to
you. I think you can give it a try.
The meeting is already kind of probably there are more important things like
it looks like it's a bit of a burning issue. So how about we follow up over email?
Yeah,
like
email is
your networking email.
Okay.
Yeah,
sounds good.
Right? Because
and escalate to TOC if you don't like, if we get into disagreements or don't agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's let the TOC decide more important stuff like where to put repositories and what to go into one of these.
All the admin stuff.
From my perspective, it's an easy choice. You have to offer the knob. So
but which
both yes. Okay, all right. So we are only 5 minutes over. Thank you very much for attending, and again we had very I think fruitful discussions, and I like that everybody really brings all the good ideas forward. So it's working really great. So. Thanks a lot, and see you in 2 weeks or for networking or in 1 week for environments.
Thanks.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye all.